This is Focal Point with Brian Fisher on AFR Talk. Listen to the audio podcast or download today's program at afr.net. You can also read Brian Fisher's columns at onenewsnow.com. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to email us anytime at focalpoint@afr.net. Focalpoint@afr.net.
Hi, and welcome back to Focal Point, AFR Talk. Just want to follow up on that spot you just heard. We have our Fall Share-a-thon coming up October 22 through 24. We'd love to get your listener testimonies if AFR Talk, Focal Point, the other programming on AFR Talk has impacted you, encouraged you, instructed you, motivated you, mobilized you, encouraged you, affected you, changed you in some way. We would love to hear about it. You can call 800-326-4543 and click option 8, and you can record your testimony about what AFR Talk has meant to you. That's 800-326-4543. And we do need Share-a-thon phone volunteers. That's Tuesday to Thursday, October 22 through 24. You can pick the day. You can pick the shift. Call that same number, 800-326-4543, and just punch in extension 204. That's option 8 to leave, record your testimonial, extension 204 to speak with Deanna and get signed up to help us with our Fall Share-a-thon. Honored and pleased to welcome to our decision maker line, Clarke Forsythe. Clarke is currently the senior counsel for Americans United for Life. He's the author of a brand new book, outstanding book, excellent book. I haven't finished it, but I've started it. Title of the book is Abuse of Discretion, The Inside Story of Roe v. Wade, which I can heartily recommend to you. Clarke, welcome to Focal Point with Brian Fisher.
Thanks, Brian. Good to be with you.
Well, it's great to have you with us. And, you know, it's fascinating. I mean, I'm not that far into the book, maybe a third of the way through it. I've learned so much about the backstory of Roe v. Wade that I did not know before. And people that care about the issue of the sanctity of life, I think, are definitely going to be interested in picking up your book and getting more information. And, you know, one of the things that you say, Clarke, in this book is that the whole Roe v. Wade case and ruling was based on kind of a misunderstanding about what the Supreme Court was going to be doing with the case that was presented to it.
That's right. The justices made a lot of mistakes in the abortion decisions, and a big one from the outset was that the justices originally took the cases, Roe v. Wade from Texas, Doe versus Bolton from Georgia, to address some mundane procedural issues. But then a crisis erupted in the court in September of 1971 when there were two vacancies within the space of a week when Justice Black and Justice Harlan retired from ill health. That reduced the number of justices to 7. It flipped the balance of the court. And 4 pro-abortion justices decided to use the cases to declare a right to abortion, and that caused all kinds of problems for the next year or so.
So the idea at the beginning, I mean, they thought when they were considering these cases that this was going to be kind of an issue of jurisdiction. It wasn't really going to be, they weren't going to be dealing with the constitutionality of abortion. They were going to be dealing with kind of a matter of jurisdiction. Is this a state matter, or is this something that can go into the federal courts? And then it turned into something that provided this huge, expansive access to abortion for all of America.
That's exactly right. There were 4 pro-abortion justices who wanted to use the cases to create a right to abortion and sweep away the abortion laws. And they were able to use that opportunity with the 2 vacancies to push the cases ahead and declare a right to abortion as fast as they could. And that's a large part of the backstory to how the cases came out.
Well, and apparently there was some backstage lobbying that was taking place. Apparently Justices Brennan, Marshall, and Stewart, and Douglas kind of relentlessly lobbied Harry Blackmun, who wound up writing the Roe v. Wade opinion, but they were lobbying him kind of backstage to get on board with them.
That's exactly right. Justice Blackmun is the public author of the opinion, but he wasn't a leader. He was more of a follower, And these four, as you mentioned, Douglas, Brennan, Stewart, and Marshall, lobbied him at every turn to expand the decision, sweep away more regulations, reach a more sweeping decision, and they continued, and they were successful in doing that over the course of about 13, 14 months. And that had, that had enormous repercussions for the sweep of the abortion decisions, as well as the implications for unborn life and maternal health in America ever since.
Well, and you look also, Clarke, talking here with Clarke Forsythe, Senior Counsel for Americans United for Life, author of the new book, Abuse of Discretion. You know, you talk about the major expansive role of the Supreme Court and how it has sort of arrogated authority over virtually every dimension of American public life, completely bypassing or overruling or overturning decisions that have been made through the elected will of the people, through their representatives or directly even at the ballot box. And it seems like Roe v. Wade was this huge leap forward in judicial tyranny where they just bypass public opinion, they bypass the democratic process to get to the outcome that they want to impose on all of America.
For 40 years, the court has dictated every aspect of the abortion issue, and as you said, disregarded public opinion. As you know, because of Roe versus Wade, the U.S. is one of only 4 nations of 195 around the globe, one of 4 that allows abortion for any reason after fetal viability, and we're ranked with North Korea, China, Canada, and the U.S. Those are the 4 nations, and that's been the national policy for 40 years because of what the justices did in Roe versus Wade.
You know, it's interesting to me, Clarke. I mean, most people, if you talk to the average American, and you were to ask them, do you think it's okay to kill a baby who could live outside the womb? Is that okay? Is that justifiable? Is that morally correct? People would say no. I mean, they might find a way to justify it prior to the point at which it could live outside the womb. But they would say, after it can live outside the womb, that's a baby. We shouldn't be killing that. And we're one of only, and so they would consider that kind of a barbaric, savage procedure. And here we fancy ourselves so enlightened in America. This is barbaric. It's Dark Ages. It's medieval. We're right in there with China and North Korea permitting this kind of savage barbarism, and it's all because of this overreaching Supreme Court decision.
The public, most of the public doesn't understand the sweep of the Roe versus Wade decision, and as you indicate, the vast majority of Americans would think that's going too far. In fact, most Americans, if they support abortion at all, they support it only in the hard cases early in pregnancy. And the justices went way beyond that, misunderstanding public opinion, pushed the decision way beyond international standards and way beyond American public opinion.
One other aspect of this, Clarke, you would think with a decision of this magnitude, and the justices obviously knew what they were doing. But that's what they were lobbying Blackmun so hard behind the scenes. They wanted to provide abortion on demand for all regions at all stages of pregnancy. You would think that their ruling then would be based on the best in medical science, the best in moral philosophy, the best in biological science, but it turns out that was hardly the case.
You're absolutely right. You'd think that, but most Americans would expect that. But because they took the 2 cases to originally decide these mundane procedural issues, they had 2 cases with no trial, no evidentiary record, no facts about the implications of abortion for either unborn life or even for maternal health. And that plagued the cases throughout the deliberations behind the scenes, and has impacted women's health ever since. And I think perhaps that's the most shocking thing that I found during my review of the papers of the justices who voted in Roe, and I think it will be a surprise to Americans as well.
Well, and you think about what happens. I've been involved some in legislative process, and one of the things that you realize in the process of a bill becoming law where it has got to be debated on the floor of the House of that state and the state Senate. Same thing happens at the federal level, is every argument has a chance to be heard. In other words, if you've got pro-life legislators, then they have the opportunity, for instance, to talk about the link between early abortion and breast cancer. They can talk about that in the debate over a pro-life bill. So everything, the information, the genetics, the biology, all of that stuff at least is considered in the debate. But here you've got this far-reaching decision that was based really on no sound medical data or biological information whatsoever.
There was no medical record. That's right. There was no medical record, and you would expect that the courts would be scrupulous. You would expect that they would know at least, that the justices would know at least as much as legislators could know. But the fact of the matter is they didn't. There was no record and no facts. And the court basically legislated. It basically established a national public policy on the abortion issue, and the Supreme Court has controlled it ever since. But why should the Supreme Court's policy be preferred to the policies of the states? Why? I mean, the American people decide public health issues, many controversial ones, through their elected representatives in the states or in Congress. And yet the court has never allowed, since in 40 years, never allowed the American people to decide this public health issue at the state level, as Americans do many other public health issues.
Got just about 30, 40 seconds left, Clarke, and hate to throw a big question like this at you, but if you can be as concise as possible, what do you think the future of Roe v. Wade is? Can this thing in time be overturned?
I definitely believe it will be overturned because its foundation is full of defects. And this is not the end of the story because the court will has 3 abortion cases before it right now, including Arizona's 20-week limit, and it will be looking at those cases in the coming months.
Our guest has been Clarke Forsythe. He's the senior counsel for Americans United for Life, author of an outstanding book, which I strongly urge you to get, Abuse of Discretion, the inside story of Roe v. Wade. You realize just how shabby and shoddy the workmanship is in this ruling that expanded the right to kill unborn babies almost to right up to the moment of birth. Clarke Forsythe, Abuse of Discretion is the book. Encourage you to get it. Clarke, thanks for your great work on this book, and God bless you, my friend.
Thank you, Brian, very much. Take care.
Clarke Forsythe, AUL. Book is Abuse of Discretion. Focal Point AF. We're talking back with your calls. Stay with us.